Let's stay a while longer on issues that has to do with the economy because the Partial Club of International Creditors has set up a Partial Creditor Committee to kickstart a restructuring talks with Ghana. My colleague George, you have a report from Washington, D.C.
The creditor committee is being called partial because for now it doesn't include China, which was invited to the meeting as one of the single largest bilateral creditors that Ghana is indebted with more than $1.9 billion. The committee has agreed to start negotiations with Ghana on how the more than $5 billion debt should be handled. That is, whether they will be looking forward to cancelling these debts or review the payment terms, which could end up with the maturity being reviewed. However, China, for now, is not part of the initial deal that was reached in this meeting. This because of concerns as to how the debt owed, which is linked to private firms like the China Exim Bank, should be handled. However, there are indications that China is willing to embark on further engagement and return to the table, possibly participate in this committee in terms of how the debt should be handled. Sources say China has indicated its willingness and pledge that, in principle, it is committed to participating in Ghana's financing program, but one is not sure about the form and structure. Ghana only needs commitment from these bilateral creditors that they are committed to having their debts restructured, or some are describing as financing assurances. And with that, Ghana can go to the IMF board with its program request for possible approval.
George, you have filed that report. Now, let's move on to some other stories. And crude oil prices will slide by 24.1% to an average of $73.1 a barrel in 2023. Well, that's according to the International Monetary Fund's April 2023 World Economic Outlook report. This is from $96.4 it recorded in 2022. Now, the fund also said oil prices will continue to fall in the coming years to $65.4 in 2026. Well, it explained that the uncertainty around this price outlook is elevated in part due to the uncertain rebound in China's growth as well as the energy transition. And my colleague George Yafi, I'm told, is back on Zoom to share what is happening in Washington, D.C. George, grateful you could join me on the marketplace. Now, bring us up to speed on the relevance of this committee set up, the partial committee set up by the Partial Club.
Now, Pius, before anything can be done with respect to restructuring of Ghana, that there's supposed to be, or there must be, a committee established. Now, this committee would actually then open formal negotiations with Ghana in terms of how the over $5 billion debt that Ghana owes the Paris Club can actually be restructured. So some might describe it as very significant because then formal talks can be opened and look at the possibility of restructuring Ghana's debt or possibly cancellation as well. So this is the first step in the several processes that can be done to work out some modalities that will lead to cancellation of Ghana's debt with the Paris Club.
We understand China is not part. Should we be worried?
Well, yes and no, because the reasons that we are picking up for a China decision to stay off for now is that there are still issues about the classification of the debts owed at China. I mean, China argues that some of these debts that are owed by private Ghana is owed to private firms like the China Exim Bank. So it's not a state debt. And so how will these institutions, how will it impact on these institutions with respect to the decision to reclassify or cancel these debts? And the commitment that China gave in that meeting was that, well, they are willing to go back and engage the Exim Bank and then come back again to engage the Paris Club. So we get some indication that, well, for now, they are not, but they're still looking forward to joining this Paris Club.
George, let's talk about the IMF's projection in terms of inflation. Here in Ghana, we've witnessed some 45% of inflation. Really tell us what the IMF has been saying about all of these.
And then earlier on, you highlighted some of them in the report. And the fund itself is optimistic that when you look at some of the measures being taken by the Bank of Ghana, has indeed also contributed to this. But they are still pushing the Bank of Ghana that maybe more hikes might be needed to try and bring the situation under control. Because if Ghana is looking for a program and still these numbers are very, very high, it doesn't send good signals to investors and even these bilateral creditors that you want to engage. And so they're asking Bank of Ghana that they still should be on that path where they will hike the policy rate and try and bring inflation under control. Looking at the almost at 30% by end of year, that shows you that significant drop that we might witness this year when it comes to inflation rate.
And we do know that there's been some significant progress in relation to, government engaging external creditors. What's the latest on that as well?
So there's more the multilateral framework. One can talk about JICA and also the World Bank and other institutions as well. And in all these meetings, what you pick up is that these institutions are ever willing to help Ghana to come out of the current challenges facing the economy. So you get the signal that they want to help Ghana. So what is government itself doing to bring the situation under control?
What more should we expect for today, George?
Well, the fiscal monetary report is out. Everybody will be looking at what would the fund say about our debt situation. But also, government is speeding up further negotiations with the Paris Club. We understand in the coming days, there'll be some engagement with the committee that will then be the formal one, and some of the options will be discussed. So still engagement with these multilateral partners in terms of how they can support the Ghanaian economy.
Thank you very much, George Yafe, joining me on the marketplace. George is reporting live from Washington, D.C., following developments in relation to the IMF World Bank Springs meeting in the USA.